Hello, everybody. What do you say, gang? It's the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. Now, for a very select few people, those last three words fall on deaf ears. Don't be a doofus. Actually, it's four words. Don't be a doofus. All right. Don't be a doofus in comments. If you don't like the show, don't watch. I hope you do like the show. I hope you do watch. I hope you subscribe. I hope you hit that like button and share if you would, and do leave a comment. Now, I'm okay with negative comments. Just don't be a doofus. All right. It is just some things to think about. That's what we do on Tuesdays. Mondays is in case you missed it. And Tuesdays, we do just some things to think about. Wednesdays are guest nights. And I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow night on Wednesday because I don't have a guest lined up. I was trying to get somebody and thought I had somebody with cryptocurrency expertise to explain things, but it appears that's not going to be the case. And then Thursday, 10:30 on Thursdays, it's the People's Platform, where we just open things up. And if you so desire, you can come on and talk about what you'd like to talk about. A lot of people just come into the comments and ask questions, and that's perfectly fine too. It's the People's Platform, 10:30 on Thursdays, Eastern Standard Time. And then over the weekend, I've been doing special edition sports shows on the NFL season. And created a word, SPOOS, sports and news combined, when a sports story and a news story are the same thing, basically. And on Mondays, I always end with a doofus. I say, don't be a doofus. And I end with an example of such a thing. And we're going, and last night, I hit the wrong button and wasn't able to show what I wanted to show. So this is a man being a doofus.
And right now, we're seeing dramatic new video from a shooting on I-95 that landed this driver behind bars. In that disturbing video, you can see the man behind the wheel pull out a gun and fire during morning rush hour. Local 10's Roy Ramos live now in North Miami with an update for us tonight. Roy?
Calvin, and remarkably, no one was injured in any of this. Nearly a dozen shots fired. It all happened right here on the lanes of I-95. And the driver who opened fire says he did so because he thought he was being shot at. Chilling dash camera video obtained by talk show host Andy Slater, showing the moments a road rage incident leads up to shots fired. You may remember when we first told you about the incident back in late June. Two cars found riddled with bullets on the southbound lanes of I-95 near 135th Street. We've now learned the driver you're looking at is 30-year-old Eric Popper. Investigators with Florida Highway Patrol said he was driving this black Toyota Venza when he abruptly cut off another driver. That driver begins to tailgate him when he's then seen slamming on the brakes.
Okay. I often talk about creating a problem, then blaming the problem on someone else, then becoming the victim, claiming to be the victim. You just heard this guy cut somebody off. The guy started to tailgate him. This guy created a problem. He's going to blame the problem on somebody else, claim to be the victim in the end.
Seconds later, state troopers say the driver pulls up to the passenger side and throws a water bottle at the vehicle when Popper quickly starts shooting right through his own windows. During the investigation, Popper told state troopers he believed he was shot at, so he began shooting. While surprisingly, there were no reported injuries, Popper ultimately turned himself into Florida Highway Patrol, was arrested, and is now facing felony charges.
Okay, so that's doofus on a number of levels. Road rage. Come on, we can be better. Humankind, my word for 2022. Human and kind. Put them together, humankind. Break them up, two great words, human and kind. We need to be more human. We need to be more kind. Humankind. Road rage. Doofus. Shooting your own car up. Doofus. Videotaping it and then going on a talk show. Okay, if you haven't figured out the guy's doofus by now, I don't know what we're going to do. As I said, spews, sports and news combining, I created a new word. I don't know how I'm going to get credit for it. SPEWS, sports and news put together, not to be confused with spewing. Okay, this is spews. I guess I'll contact one of the dictionaries and tell them I've created a word, and we'll see what happens. This is the first day of Black History Month. It's February, and every February is Black History Month. The shortest month of the year in number of days. And how does Black History Month start off? A dozen historically Black colleges and universities. That's what HBCU stands for, historically Black college and universities. More than a dozen of them got bomb threats on the first day of Black History Month. Here's our spoos story. Here's our sports and news combined. Brian Flores has sued the NFL, the Dolphins, the Giants, the Broncos on alleged racist hiring policies. This is a very serious matter. Brian Flores, you see down here in the Miami Dolphins hat, the green aqua Miami Dolphins hat. They've got a picture of Daniel Jones, the Giants quarterback, because he has sued the NFL as a whole, and he sued these three franchises, the Dolphins, the Giants, and the Broncos individually. Now, Flores was the Dolphins coach up until the end of this season. He had him on the brink of going to the playoffs, and there's a lot in this story, including the fact that supposedly the owner of the Dolphins wanted Flores to do something not only unethical, but against league rules, and that would be tampering with another player, namely Tom Brady. So this is potentially a very serious situation. Now, if you're a member of the Black community, you need to know who Brian Flores is. You need to remember that name, because basically he just fell on his sword. All right. He just gave up his coaching career, and he's an incredibly good coach. He really is a really good coach. He just gave up his coaching career by doing this, by filing this lawsuit. And he's drawing attention to systemic racism. He's drawing attention to racial practices in hiring. And he's probably never going to coach again, not in the NFL level, at least for a number of years, unless things drastically change. And it's going to be like, it's just going to be a situation where nobody's going to recommend him because he has been he's a great coach, but he doesn't go along to get along. And I applaud that. I'm one of the same. Okay, I don't go along to get along, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing a small podcast like this. But I love this small podcast, and I love my small audience. They're all intelligent, and most 99% of them are really intelligent, and even the haters are smart people. They just don't agree with the fact that we should have equality, that we should have acceptance, that we should have the things that we talk about on here, especially peace. he's fallen on his sword. You remember what happened to Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was a Super Bowl caliber quarterback with the San Francisco 49ers and their head coach, Jim Harbaugh. Both Kaepernick and Harbaugh have been out of the league. And there have been a number of situations, especially in the first few years. And yes, it was years. The first 3 or 4 years, Colin Kaepernick, when a quarterback opening would come up, Colin Kaepernick was, in my humble opinion, as a football analyst, he was more talented than anybody else available. And especially a lot of the slow white guys that end up getting the jobs. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. And it wasn't, he didn't get a job. Colin Kaepernick didn't get a job, still didn't have a job because he knelt in protest and knelt drawing attention to systemic racism. Brian Flores, again, if you're a member of the Black community, know who this guy is, send him a tweet. Send him some kind of support because he just fell on his sword. And this is a spoof story that we're going to be talking about for a while. Okay, just some things to think about. We again remember Ted Cruz yesterday called Biden's Supreme Court promise, the promise being that he was going to nominate a Black woman to the sport. He called it offensive. And Ukraine soldiers preparing for Russia to invade. We've talked about this. Go back and check the episode out. Chris and I did. Chris, our security and terrorism expert. Go back and check that episode out. We talked about how a Russian group could be behind some of the coups that are happening in Africa. Another one happened today, and I am going to touch on that in more depth tomorrow. Ukrainian soldiers are preparing for Russia to invade, and we talked about this. The United States has promised to support the Ukraine in the event Russia invades. The United States has promised to support Taiwan in the event China invades. The Olympics are about to start in 2 days. Probably some of the preliminary events have already started, but the Olympics are about to officially start in 2 days. And Russia has a history of making moves either right before or even during the Olympics, including the Olympics in their home country. And we'll touch on that a little bit more tomorrow. But the point being, the United States has made promises in 2 separate locations against 2 very powerful potential enemies. And could China and Russia have something worked out where they are finally trying to draw the United States into something that we cannot get out of? So it's something to think about. It's something to pay attention to. A lot of stuff to think about and pay attention to. A couple of weeks ago, I said the QAnon videos are going to start coming back. They are back.
So then I was looking at Trump TV, Truth Social, and I found this information that Trump.
Okay. The point of the context of the videos, not important. As much as the fact that the false information is starting to flow again and starting to be repeated again and repeated again and repeated again. One more, CIA confirms that DUM has been destroyed. In South Pacific Ocean, FBI raids the one DIM against border policy. And then this guy, 107, who we've talked about numerous times on this show. They are trying to rile up the alt-right. And we've got a serious potential problem with the fact that there's so much hate going on in our country. I can't get into it at the moment because it would take hours upon hours, but we got to keep talking about this. You've got to, in my opinion, you need to start recognizing this going on. There is a faction of white people that want to destroy anybody that does not look, think, act, and believe as they believe. And they will go so far as to stop people from voting, intimidate people at the polls. Republican candidate tells voters to show up armed to the polls, just for those of you that were going to go, oh, that's just great. No, it really happens here. A quote tweeted by a GOP congressman, Grand Old Party Republican congressman, who the congressman claimed came from philosopher Voltaire, actually came from a neo-Nazi convicted for child porn. This is in the fact check section. Just something to think about. We've got an association between not every Republican is a Nazi, but every Nazi is going to vote Republican. What, I got one more. Yes, somebody asked me to speak about Grandmaster Jay a couple of weeks back, or a week or so ago, and I said no, I'm not. I'm not showing any of the old videos. I'm not, because there's a major difference between having hearings and having a trial. In hearings, things are decided. Okay, the hearings decide situations. Trials decide guilt or innocence. Trials pass judgment. And with a trial potentially coming up, you don't want to do anything that is going to have a negative impact. All right. I will say this: if indeed the people that were on the rooftop when Grandmaster Jay looked through the scope to get a view of who was observing him, if they thought he was a threat, they would have shot him dead within seconds, is my personal belief. Okay, so, but that's just my personal belief. I'm not going to be on the jury. I'm not going to be a witness. I'm not going to be any part of it. And none of us should be part of it. We need to be quiet about it. Show your support, of course, if you're a supporter, but don't give anybody anything to be used against anybody. And I said, Donald Trump is facing legal problems, and the more he talks, there's an old saying, you give the dog enough rope, it's going to hang itself. The more he talks, the more he's hanging himself. And that's perfectly fine with me if the Justice Department's going to act. If somebody is going to grow a pair and say, enough of this, we've got to stop this from destroying our country and destroying our democracy. George Conway, who is a noted conservative Republican, says Trump just gave prosecutors the trifecta of criminal intent. Trump's rally on Sunday, he basically said, yeah, I tried to overthrow the elections. Yeah, we basically were trying to make sure that, in his words, that justice would be done. In other words, what they were trying to do was they wanted to confiscate all the voting machines, have no recounts at all, and just declare Trump the winner. And that's not how democracy works. That's how a totalitarian fascist regime works. Just something to think about. Finally, we are possibly in for the storm of the century. Now, when I was in college, there was the storm of the century, and it was called the blizzard of 1978. And there were snow drifts that were literally 20 feet high in the area that I'm in. And they're saying this could be the storm of the century. And I said, well, I said to someone, I said to a really good friend, how could this be the storm of the century? Because, you know, they obviously weren't around in 1978. And said, yeah, you know, this is a different century. So yeah, it's a different century. The century is only 22 years old, but still, they're saying it could be the storm of the century, calling for between 12 and 18 inches of snow in the band with the band with the pink right here, and a 15,000 mile long streak that is nothing but ice, and in some cases an inch to 2 inch plus of ice. Now, a quarter inch of ice brings power lines down. A quarter inch of ice brings tree limbs down. The weight of 2 inches of ice on a flimsy building, a shed or something, is probably going to bring it down. A carport, probably going to bring it down. So this is potentially a very dangerous situation that could happen depending on where you're located in the geography of the United States. Could happen in the next 48. Actually, now it's probably the next 24 to 48 hours, including some massive storms, including possibly tornadoes in the very south. Extreme weather, climate change, probably a factor. I've got another theory of what I believe could be happening, causing a lot of the things that we're seeing that are anomalies, if you will. And maybe that's what I was planning on doing that on the People's Platform on Thursday, but if I don't have a guest, maybe that's what we'll talk about tomorrow night. So if you haven't already, you still got time to prepare. You got time to stock up and make sure you've got at least 3 days worth of whatever it may be, especially medications. Okay. You got, make sure you're not out of meds in case you do get 12 to 18 inches of snow. That's 2 foot of snow. That's the equivalent of like 24 inches of rain, a monsoon of rain with 30-mile-an-hour winds are going to make some areas impassable, depending on where you live. So just make sure and prepare. Be aware, as with everything else, it's something to think about. So that's our show for tonight. That's the episode. It's American Doofus. I do thank you for watching, and I do appreciate your comments. And if you'd like to help the show keep going, you can do so by making a donation through the Cashapp. It's not a necessity. It's something that helps. I get very limited advertising, as you probably noticed, because of the sensitive subjects that we dare to tell the truth about on here. And we make about $20 a month, honestly. So yeah, a little help every now and then is greatly appreciated and generally used to try to upgrade things. And you can do that at the Cash App, $ American Doofus, AMERICANDUFUS. There's other ways you can help out. My latest novel is out. My 3rd novel, the first in a new series of books, is out now and available. And it'll be a link to that book will be in the description below. I sincerely thank you for watching. I love you all, and I appreciate everything. I really do. I appreciate your words. I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your prayers. And I just thank you for watching, honestly. So we will be back tomorrow night with something. I'm not sure exactly what tomorrow's going to bring yet. It may still bring a cryptocurrency guest. We'll find out. But until then, barring a weather disaster and I have no power or anything like that, I'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, with the People's Platform, and Friday on like storm detail, more or less, letting you know what's going on storm wise, as it's probably going to be having its most major impact through the most major areas on Friday. So thank you for watching. I wish you nothing but peace. Salam, shalom, namaste, blessings upon all of you. If you're a Christian, may the Lord in Christ Jesus Savior, or may my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ watch over you. Nothing but blessings. And it is a dark world. Do try to be a light. Peace.